So hi, I am Adam or Faith from Jukebox Champions. Je parle un peu français. I'm going to try to do some in French, some in English. Freddie will translate where he can. Just to say a little bit about me, I've been a producer, DJ for 10, 11 years. I've toured all of the world, played more than 500 concerts, I think. I've worked with DJ Vadim, Bonobo, people like Wax Taylor, State of Mind is my group, Jukebox Champions, Kid Creole, Bigger Ranks. I don't know, lots of people. I've produced for a lot of different people, had releases on BBE, Laboratoire, Ninja Tune, different labels, different remixes I've done. This is an MPC 1000. It was my first MPC when I was young. I got it when I was 16. I'm sponsored by Akai, and I have a few different MPCs. I have the 2000, 3000, 4000, Renaissance, 1000 and 2500 between me and the other guy from Jukebox Champions in the studio in Paris. I love the 1000. It's small, it's powerful, it's easy to use, and since I was young I've produced 4 different albums, full albums using just the MPC.
Donc il a fait 4 albums avec cette petite machine-là.
A lot of people, it's true that the MPC 3000 in the studio probably has the best sound. There's no question. The swing is a little bit different on every MPC. The workflow is a little bit different on every MPC, but the 1000 I think is the best introduction MPC. It's like the easiest one to begin with. It's the easiest one to use. The interface is very user-friendly. It's like, I don't know, it's like the Mac of MPCs almost, you know? Like, it's really easy to use and it's cool. So, I didn't plan a beat. Today I just found this record, which on a fait un concert à Poland. Et on a fait un petit digging session. Et j'ai trouvé ça. I thought the cover was cool. And the first song on side A is this. Yeah, it's like gold. No drums, like Rhodes, good bass. I mean, so I was pretty happy with that. It was the kind of digging session where you can't listen to the vinyl, you know, so we were just picking up vinyl. I always look at like what year it's from. I find that the 70s are always the best for the kind of samples I like. And jazz and funk and soul. And then I just look at the covers and I thought that had a crazy Polish guy on the front and music is beautiful. But before I sample that, usually before I start sampling, I usually find some kind of basic drums, like to make a basis. Normalement, ce sont pas the final drums.
Il fait une espèce d'ébauche de drums pour commencer le morceau. Ce ne sera pas du tout les drums finales.
Mais c'est juste pour un tempo, une base. And so.
C'est le disque qu'il a samplé pour faire la démo. Il disait qu'il l'a acheté en Pologne, il n'a pas pu l'écouter avant de l'acheter. Il a regardé la couverture, ça lui plaisait et Il a regardé l'année, les années 70 en général ça peut être bien. Donc, et en fait,
quand t'as pas moyen d'écouter, c'est un peu la technique.
C'est quand même, il a dit que le sample, c'est quand même le sample de rêve. Ce sample qu'il nous a joué, il a dit c'est quand même les samples, il m'a dit j'en rêve la nuit des samples comme ça, et donc il est super content avec ce sample.
Yeah. I love Rhodes, and I love double bass, and I love spacey percussion shit, it's good. So I'm really going to just improvise the beat. I haven't made it before, so c'est totalement improvisation. But this is one of my favorite snares. It's got like it's like 4 snares together, which on a déjà utilisé pour un autre morceau, mais je vais sampler ça.
Il y a 4 snares au-dessus l'un de l'autre là, c'est ça?
Something like that. I mean, originally it was a snare for a remix we did for Blondetto. C'est un groupe de reggae.
Le français,
ouais. Ouais, le français. On a fait un remix et on a dans cet morceau, il a une partie de cette snare. And after that, we put more snares on it and used it for a song on the Jukebox Champions album, which was with Zoom T and Bigger Ranks, a reggae track.
Il a un peu le son reggae snare.
Yeah. But it's hard, and it's got like the clap and the thing, and it's like a little bit late, you know, it's... And so anyway, just to show, for example, you have nothing on the pads when you turn on the MPC. Once you have a sample in, you can cut it very easily using just your data wheel. Depending what you're doing. And then you choose which pad you want it on. For me, I always put my snare there. I don't know why, but that's my snare. Afterwards, you can change the tune. You know, the normal stuff. Volume. Each pad can take 4 different sounds on it, so...
Velocity trigger.
Yeah.
Donc on peut mettre 4 couches suivant la puissance du coup, vous déclenchez différents samples sur le même pad. 4 différentes.
Donc on met 4 sons différents sur le même pad.
4 sons différents sur le même pad. Si tu tapes fort, t'as un son. Si tu tapes moyen fort, t'as un autre son. Pas fort,
donc la vélocité.
And the cool thing, tu peux pas faire avec cet MPC, mais avec le nouveau MPC Renaissance, you can have 4 songs on a pad, and then each time you push the pad, it goes to the next sound. So you can cycle. So for example, if you have 4 different claps, every time you play it, it plays a different clap, for example, which is really cool. Or hi-hats, so it sounds more like a real hi-hat. You have 4 different hi-hats on one pad, and it goes through it, which is cool. Or you can just have like kick, hi-hat, snare, hi-hat. Play a drum beat with one pad, which is cool. It's good feature. After we'll find a kick.
Là qu'on enregistre tout là, hein, il choisit sur son ordinateur, on le passe dans la carte son. Et la carte son repart dans l'entrée de la MPC. Il semble en temps réel, donc il va se enregistrer, il enregistre le son de son ordinateur jusqu'à la MPC.
Et donc le son il est sur Ableton, c'est ça?
Non, là, il est dans le Finder. Là,
ouais, c'est juste dans mon Finder. I quite like that. I like sounds with a bit of vinyl, dirty. Same thing. So. But say that I also was like, okay, I like that, but I want something a bit like deeper with my kick. Just to show an example of adding 2.
Couche. You can lay them.
I've got, yeah. So this is just like, you know, an 808. For example.
On the same pad?
Just just to show. I'm not going to keep it on there. So there, you know, now you have the... And then you can, you know, like for example, I could change the pitch of just one of them. Or the volume of it. So now you have that low feel, but it's like inside, you know.
On peut changer le pitch et le volume de chaque son. Il y a deux couches et on peut changer le pitch des deux sons de n'importe quelle couche. Pas ensemble.
Après, on trouvait vite fait une hi-hat.
Non, il est en train de les choisir sur une bande de son.
Hi-hat. One. It's two. So I took 3 hi-hats. I like to keep my hi-hats feeling a little bit more live. Each hi-hat is from the same hi-hat break, which I cut. You know, it's
I'm sorry, are we recording the photo booth?
Yeah.
Cool.
It is recording. The hi-hat's a bit loose, so I'm just cutting it, you know, moving the recording so that it's directly at the start.
Je vais juste couper le début pour que le hat soit bien sharp.
Oui, soit sec. Est-ce qu'on peut baisser l'écran pour voir bien les...
Ah, sorry, no, it's me. Pardon. It's me.
C'est cet écran, je voulais dire.
Ouais.
And then you can choose if you want it so that the sounds play at the same time or if they cut each other. So like now, il coupe comme je, like it's it cuts each other. Okay, so what I would usually do, like I said, before I sample, I just make like my basic drums, just like the drum idea, you know. Pour maintenant, j'ai le quantize, mais normalement, comme je finis le track avec le sample, j'ai fait mon drums sans quantization. But it depends, you know. Some tracks need quantize, some tracks it's better loose, you know. It depends what you like, you know. And just hi-hats. So that's just the basic drums for whatever. For me, I feel like the kick is maybe a little bit loud, so I turn it down a bit. Could also, for example, maybe if I think the kick is too dirty, just put a bit of a filter on it. Or if the hi-hats are too sharp. Et tu peux faire tout ça like on real time. So that's the drums. Back to the sample. Usually when I sample onto the MPC, to make it easier to cut after, I sample in sections. So I think about...
Pour que ce soit plus facile à travailler avec la MPC, on coupe le sample en petites sections.
Ah bon?
On le sampler 15 secondes, on fait 3 fois. 16 secondes, on fait 3 fois 4 secondes.
Yeah, rather than sample like 1 minute, I'll sample like 10 5-second samples. So for the first one, we'll take just that first bit. I usually think like, where would I cut it usually? And then I try to record each time at the beginning. So always like on the one, on the bass note or something, I'll push record. And then it starts at the correct moment. If it doesn't make sense, I'll show you in a minute so you can really understand. Okay, we'll stop there just before the horns. So now what I recorded there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 samples. Starting with just that much. And it's really quick and easy to just cut and manipulate things on the MPC. I just move in, zoom in, and now I'm at the beginning of the sample. You can see on the screen your waveform, but it's better just to do it with your ears because it's not exact on the screen, but you can, yeah, you can trust your ears. So I'm just gonna very quickly.
On a compris ça, hein? On regarde pas l'écran.
If ever you want to stand up and look at the screen, feel free. You know, like if you want to see what's happening, it's no problem.
Vous voulez vous lever et voir ce qui se passe sur l'écran.
So what I've done now is I just took each sample and I put it onto like the first beat, just so you could, you know, to play with it. Inside of this, they call it like the chop shop or the trim inside the MPC. You have different menus of things you can do to the sample. One is discard, which basically means like to cut and delete a piece of a sample. Extract is to take a sample and make it into a new sample. Delete deletes the whole sample. Pretty simple. Silence can add silence to a sample if you want to make some extra space. For example, if you have a snare, you could add like, you know, 0.01 seconds of silence at the beginning And then when you push your snare, it's going to be a little bit late, like a little bit of swing on it. Normalize, obvious. Reverse, obvious. Time stretch. But to be honest, the time stretch in the MPC isn't so good. I mean, like the Ableton time stretch is really good. The MPC time stretch, it's got a style, you know. It's, if you like that kind of, when you can hear the stretch, you like really hear the audio stretch. Pitch shift. Then you can take, you could take the left side and make it mono from just the left side, or mono from just the right side, or you could take both sides and make it one mono track. You know, sometimes, especially on old vinyl, when you're sampling, you might have some great bass and drums on this side and some melody on this side, and you want to just keep the melody or just keep the drums, so you can, you know, take just one side and make it a mono track, for example.
Donc Faye nous expliquer un peu tous les menus. Les menus de ce qu'on peut faire un sample, rajouter du silence. Ce qu'il a peut-être dit, vous avez peut-être échappé à certains, c'est qu'on peut rajouter du silence. Il disait qu'on rajoute du silence devant les snares, devant les caisses claires, pour rajouter en fait du swing. Parce que comme ça, quand tu tapes, en fait, il est en retard. Intéressant, moi je trouve, comme technique. Il disait que le time stretch dans le MPC il est pourri. À moins que tu aimes ça, ce son carrément évident que
Has a flavor.
tiré. Il dit que Ableton est un peu mieux là-dessus. Voilà, donc tu peux faire plein de choses à ton sample évidemment. C'est des choses qu'on peut faire sur un sample dans un software aussi. Hein, donc prendre la channel de gauche et la rendre mono, c'est-à-dire que ça devient la channel principale. Prendre les deux, droite et gauche, les rassembler ensemble pour faire un sample mono qui a le droite et la gauche rassemblés ensemble, ou juste la droite.
So I'm gonna now just put the beginning of the sample on each pad. Afterwards, usually for me when I make a beat, I take pieces of the sample, then I just play, try to think of ideas. And then I'll go into more detail and I'll chop the sample into more pieces, get really, you know. But to begin with, I always find that it's cool to just take a moment to just play with the sample. That's why I love the MPC, because you can really just play, you know. It's like a instrument, I guess, you know. So we'll put the sample on. It's a pretty slow song, so I'm just gonna tune everything up by 2. The difference with Ableton and the MPC is when you tune on an MPC, it's like on a turntable. If you tune up, it goes faster. So now the sample is also faster, whereas on Ableton, if you just touch the tune, it keeps the, if I'm not incorrect, Freddie, right? You can do it both ways, right? But on your main transpose window, if you just touch the tune, the transpose, then it stays the same length. Whereas on the MPC, it makes the file faster, which is an interesting thing, and it goes back to the old samplers, where they would only have like 8 seconds or 5 seconds of sampling. And what a lot of people would do is they'd sample on, you know, like the turntable on 45, or they'd even try to spin it as fast as they can, so that they make the sample only last 2 seconds, and then they'd slow it down on the MPC, because it doesn't take more memory that way. So that way you can get a 5-second sample on like 1 second, for example. So that's kind of like the history of, of that. So
how do you know the speed now?
Well, usually what you can do is you can play it, and you've got the tap tempo button.
So you follow that.
So if I wanted to do it, it's about 76. Wait, sorry, I've it's about 76, but
So you just did something that would take most of us about 20 minutes to work out in 5 seconds.
yeah, no, you just push it and then you.
C'est un peu impressionnant ce qu'il vient de faire quand même en 3 secondes. Il a pas besoin de dire tempo, on attendrait tous un peu plus longtemps, je pense.
Pour tout caler, ouais.
Ouais, pour là, il a réussi en 2 secondes à. Il a monté le pitch, ça l'a fait aller plus vite et hop, il a calculé le tempo en 2 secondes.
Okay, so at this point, I'm gonna try to do a hip hop track, so I'm gonna put it at like 95 BPM, and then just play. That's usually my technique. Is I like that. It's cool. So. And you can just begin to kind of imagine ideas for your sequence, you know, like my instinct is, because I like the little percussion in that it should be the first. This one's got quite a high sound. I always like beats to kind of go a bit like that. You know, like if you think about like Cypress Hill, Insane in the Membrane, you know, it's like boom. Boom, 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 boom. I always think it's cool to kind of like bring a bit of energy up at the end, because otherwise tracks quite often can go a bit like that towards the end of the bar, and I always find it's cool. So that one's high. It's good to think about for the end. It's like. I don't know. I'm just improvising. I don't know, but so then you can record your idea. That's kind of the idea of taking a sample and flipping the sample. At the same time, now at that point, if I was like, you know, I like it, but maybe it would sound cooler tuned down, I could tune it down. You know, I only tuned a few down. Maybe that's better. I don't know.
Baffled. I'm a bit baffled because so then you raised up the tempo at 95 BPM, and so eventually the sample is actually going at 76 BPM.
Yeah.
So you're not finishing the slices, is that right?
No, if I tried to finish the slices, it would be more like.
Of course, it wouldn't sound the same. Right.
Yeah. It's not at the same tempo, but that's.
Je trouve ça intéressant qu'en fait, ce que je disais, c'est que le sample, on a calculé tout à l'heure, était à 176 BPM. Il a monté le BPM à 95. Et donc, quand il tape, les slices qu'il a coupés, elles finissent pas. Il les tape et elle finit. Là, il va nous montrer comment ça fait. Si
Yeah,
il laisse
so-
finir, elle se passe par-dessus, ça passe pas du tout. Mais c'est trop intéressant.
So I have it so each one cuts each other. Cuts each other. And that's the thing, the difference with kind of the way that Ableton makes you think, I find when you're working, is you automatically get pushed, like everything goes into the correct tempo, you know?
Exactly.
And so, which is cool, and it's really easy to make beats like
I'm
that.
surprised how musical it sounds when you're cutting them slices.
Yeah, exactly. So. But it's completely out of tempo. But
I'd say that just learn something. Yes, I would not do that.
yeah, that is the thing about Ableton. It really keeps you inside tempos.
Pour moi, c'est un truc que instinctivement, j'aurais pas fait. Je trouve ça super intéressant que le sample, en fait, il joue pas, il a un sample, il finit pas les cuts. Donc en fait, le tempo original du sample n'a aucune inhérence sur le produit fini. Je trouve que ça sonne vachement musical malgré tout.
Afterwards, you know, say that you wanted to have your like chorus or verse part. I like the filters a lot on the MPC. Especially the low pass filter I find really nice. All I'm doing now is I'm just putting a filter on each path. And like that, you can kind of create your basis of your track to then take samples on top of. Cool thing is now, you know, you've got your other samples and you know that they're in tune with each other. And I always find the there's a band pass. A band pass on the MPC, which I find is really nice when you have just the low stuff into then. And it especially works really good if you have vocals, like a vocal sample, you know, like a singer. To take out all the stuff around it, with the band pass you really get a good amount of voice, and you can just lay the voice on top of whatever you're doing, which is cool. Just to talk a bit about the filters, I think the filters on the MPC are really nice and really easy to use. You know, it just takes a second now. They're all off. Maybe not as easy as just clicking with a mouse to turn off your EQs, but you know. Anyway, so at this point we have our little idea. The drums are not great, but a good thing that the MPC is, I mean, the MPC, one of the best things as far as for the drums and playing the drums.